Welcome back to another episode of the DeadEnd Drive-In. I am Flesh Wound Dan, joined by Dirk. How's it going?
What's going on, man? Just
Yes.
sweating and living the dream, man. Poison
Living-
oak is every damn where, and it got all over me, and I'm trying to get the hell away from it now.
Well, yeah, we've it's hot out right now when we're recording this, and we got some interesting movies tonight, to say the least. Also joined by Darren. How's it going?
Yeah, good to be here again, man. Yeah. Just breathing the UK weather as always. We've had storms all night, so hopefully they've calmed down now, so it should be okay for this.
That's good. That's good. Yes. Tonight, this episode, I think, is about as Grindhouse as they come.
Oh yeah.
These are
Hell yeah.
films that I say this a lot, and I'm kind of a broken record. These could not be made today.
Shit.
They really could not.
No way.
No way in hell.
Now, in terms of look, feel, and our second one tonight, that's going to be an interesting discussion. But we're going to kick things off, as always, with our oldest film of the evening, which is the 1971 film from writer-director David E. Durston, I Drink Your Blood, right here. Look at that cool cover art. So in this film, it follows It's Night of the Living Dead meets Charlie Manson in this gore-drenched 1971 drive-in classic. After consuming rabies-infected meat pies, an LSD-addicted hippie cult goes on a vicious murdering rampage. So there you go. I Drink Your Blood. Wow. Okay, so this movie, the original title was actually Phobia, and the distributors wanted this to play as a double feature, and they had I Eat Your Skin, so it ended up becoming I Drink Your Blood, despite no real blood drinking, no vampires or anything like that. But it went well with that headline, two great blood horrors to rip out your guts. It's also, I believe, the first film to get an X rating by the MPAA solely based on violence. It was inspired by an article about a group of kids, I think it was Iran or Iraq, infected by rabies and being kept in cages. And then they naturally, at the time, the Manson murders were very heavily in the news, so they kind of combined that into this crazy fucking movie that we have for you guys tonight. So
and the
first time watch for either of you?
This is the first time I've seen it. Yeah, so I went on your recommendation day, and I went in and just bought the damn thing. Couldn't get the slip, but I mean, it was a decent price. I mean, I'm not too big on that shit anyway. But
yeah, it's.
I think it's well worth it though. I think it was well worth it for sure.
Knowing what you guys like fairly well, I'm like, yeah, this will be a purchase probably.
At first, I was kind of like, it's a strange, but you got like the satanic cult like in Mayberry, kind of like shit, like Andy Griffith's show or something, like. Yeah. What's that little kid? I mean, it's a wild ass time, man.
Opie is not fucking around in this movie.
He ain't fucking around at all. And Opie knows how to use a gun, and he's but he also acts like an old man, don't he?
He does.
Like that little kid acts like he's like got all this wisdom and shit.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
That's probably he probably played it that way, the director, Yeah. But for me, this was the first time watch as well. It's completely different to what I was expecting. I've seen like the trailers, like Dan said, for the two films, and they kind of marketed them together. But no, I had a lot of fun with this one. It's, don't get me wrong, it's not going to be in anyone's top 10, I don't think, of anytime soon. But it's just wild, like you say, with that little kid Pete, and the little bastard putting, rabies into all those meat pies, and you got the whole Manson thing.
Yeah, it's great. But he's got a rabid dog just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he just he's quick draw McGraw, boom, kills the damn thing and gets the damn blood. And he's thinking about how these hippies fucked over his grandpa and gave him acid and shit. That was wild. I was like, what the hell am I watching, man? This is some batshit crazy, but it's fun.
Basically, all the actors in this like amateurs as well. They weren't really well known or anything. I think Lynn Lowry's in there, isn't she?
Yeah.
Lynn Lowry initially, they didn't really have a role, but when Durston saw her, he's like, "Oh, okay, wow, we got to put her in this movie." So they made her deaf and mute, so he didn't have to write more lines.
I kept waiting for her to talk. I was like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah, they don't explain that till near the end either, and then they do kind of explain in one of the scenes towards the end. But I was like, "Yeah, what's maybe she's like an extra or something." But
man, they're over the top, but it's not like sometimes that don't work for me. When I'm watching, if they're too over the top. But I think it's just the right amount. Like, because at first it was like, oh shit, what the hell is this going to be? And then as the film progresses, man, I was there for the whole ride, and there's no fat on the. I mean, there's no. I'm losing my mind. It's been a long day.
Oh no, you're right. It goes by fast. Like it's very well paced. There's a lot of humor in this. It's one of those films that might seem kind of silly to a lot of people today, but you got to remember all this post-Manson, all this Satanist cult stuff, Satanic Panic, which kind of comes a little bit later, but people were terrified of that. So some of these movies, as goofy as they may seem, and I say that in a positive way with this one, because what a film that could only have been made, I think, in 1971. They throw everything. We got a satanic cult. We've got we've got basically a zombie movie. It's funny because Lynn Lowry went on to do The Crazies, which has similar themes to this one.
Yeah.
And
that lead, I guess he was Native American, supposed to be Native American. Or
Bhaskar, yes, I believe he's actually from India. I believe, I could be wrong,
but Indian dancer as well as an actor. He's an Indian dancer, which I've read, and I was like, wow.
I was thinking of Creepshow 2 though when I seen him, like,
the Native American,
the wooden head or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. Like, maybe they took that from this. I don't know, maybe, but.
But did you read about, like, they were going to do a remake back in 2009, and it was going to be produced by Sybil Danning, and she was going to star in it as well.
Oh shit!
But basically, the director died literally like a year later while it was in talks. That would have been interesting. I don't know whether they could have replicated this film in any way, but yeah, it would have been interesting to see what they did. But this one, like Dan said, you can't get more Grindhouse than this. This is like,
no,
it's just entertaining all the way through. You can't take your eyes off the screen, But with the actress as well, the one actress because there is kind of she certainly gets like she's a bit of a floozy type character, and and I'm not sure if it's implied, that they're all sleeping with her, all the construction workers. I thought she did a good job. I was surprised to see that I don't think she was well known or anything as an actress.
Yeah, no, this was very low budget. I mean, it was basically shot in a ghost town, and once again we have actual cops playing cops. We talked about that on our Creature from Black Lake episode. There were townies in the movie that a lot of which that were still there were none too pleased, probably post Manson. I'm sure they were looking at some of these people thinking, what the hell's going on? It not the safest movie because all the glass being smashed in that finale was real glass. They basically paid $300 to keep that motel open for another month, and yeah, that definitely not the safest movie. This felt like something they would have done in the Philippines. Just here, jump off this roof. We've got a mattress. You're good. But I just love it.
What about that the stunt where the guy's asleep in the van?
Yeah.
And they just push that damn, like, it's like a prank. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what the hell? You know, I'd be pissed off, man. Like, I didn't even know if the dude was going to survive, you know, like.
It's
I thought he was just going to go up in a ball of flames or something,
right.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I was going to say,
like everyday shit with him, you know, like, you know,
jackass before jackass.
Right.
I was like, what did you think was going to happen?
Except they worship the devil and do acid.
Yeah.
So,
oh man,
and that's what's crazy about this, because I just love this story because it's this really vindictive kid that, granted, these aren't the nicest people, but they didn't kill his grandpa. They didn't, you know, they weren't as brutal as you would expect. Like, they were assholes and they were weird. But that kid's just like, nope, you know what? I've made up my mind. I'm going to just inject fucking meat pies with rabies.
Right.
He didn't have Google back then, I guess. Right. I mean, like, you know, maybe...
I mean, is it implied in the early scenes as well? Is it implied that they raped his sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
did.
True. Yeah. So that was probably the last straw, was when Grandpa got fucked over, you know.
You're exactly rooting for this kid as well because of all that. But yeah, well, little shit. The ingenious idea to do that as well is brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Also,
they don't never show it though, really. Like, his sister got raped, but she's like catatonic, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But
it's.
But then it's weird because her ass snaps back, and then she's in love with one of the cult members. It's fucking weird.
It's not a polished movie. Right. Like, I don't want to give anybody the impression that this is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think it is close to being a perfect drive-in movie. It's insanely entertaining. I mean, anything you could possibly want. You know, you get the gratuitous nudity. You know, Lynn Lowry, of course, is worth. She's still beautiful, by the way. She's, I think, well into her 70s and still a beautiful woman. She didn't have an official credit on this film because she was actually just cast in an NBC soap opera, How to Survive a Marriage. So she had the director actually take her name off, but it's pretty wild. Another star that appears in this film is Ben from the movie Ben. He was one of the rats in this film, which is
oh shit.
Pretty cool. Like, he survived. Supposedly they use dead rats, but you know, in this period, sometimes you kind of I wouldn't be too shocked if a rat got snuffed out.
Yeah, some of that
there's a few animal scenes in there, isn't there?
They look pretty real.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
they claim they use dead rats from you know, but I don't know. I don't know if I believe that one. Yeah.
I read somewhere, didn't they painted them or something as well? The different color, paint them black, or I don't know what it was, but
I know they've done that in other films as well. Like,
you can tell that, like Dan said, that those things weren't being, you know, looked after. is the best way to put it, I suppose.
Right.
But,
it's a fun ass ride, man. I say, you know, you got a group of people partying, just wanting to kick back and watch something goofy, sleazy fun, man. This is right up your alley. I mean,
100%. And when the shit hits the fan in the finale, it is pretty brutal. You know, we have not to give it away, but a pregnant character that makes a certain decision towards the end that's pretty brutal. And I love just like all the gaffes that they leave in. There's one actor whose dentures fall out, and he just
that's fucking great, man. When I saw that shit, I about hit the fucking floor, man.
Just go with it. Film was expensive, and I think there's enough there to please the gore hounds. Again, 71.
It's in the same vein of like some early Sam Raimi type shit.
I was gonna say maybe just a little bit more polished than the films of H.G. Lewis, which I love H.G. Lewis, but that gives you an idea of the vibe, a little more high concept, I guess, than a lot of H.G. stuff. But just the story really sells this one. It's just so bonkers what this kid does.
The kid he's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
He's just like, it's like an old man and this little kid, and he's got like all this wisdom and shit. Like he's like telling his older sister or his cousin or something. He's telling her like what's what, kind of shit. Oh no, man. I really dug it though.
The producers,
it gets wilder as well. Sorry, Dan.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just saying the producers cut out a lot of the humor, much to Durston's dismay. There's a lot more, and they shot this in Sharon Springs, New York, which I don't know what that's like today. I'd be really curious to see, but it was the real sheriff that was used in the movie.
Okay.
The townsfolk actually thought that these people were a real satanic cult, so weren't as warm.
I mean, they definitely look like hippies, but I guess the lead guy, he was what did he keep saying? He kept saying some weird shit. He wasn't saying Satan, he was saying
Satanist or something. Yeah.
Sados, the sons and daughters of Satan, I believe.
Right, he was the standout for me. He was by far the best actor in the film. But like I was going to say, it gets crazy as it goes on, but you've got like limbs being hacked off. You've got the Chinese character, the way she meets her demise as well, by setting herself on fire.
And she was she reminded me of like in The Crow,
Biling.
Yeah. She reminded me of her, like she's got like she kept looking at the tarot cards and she could see death coming or whatever.
Jadine Wong is the actress's name, and she's actually the niece of iconic silent era pioneer Anna May Wong. So she may have a bigger legacy, but Jadine was in I Drink Your Blood, so that's not too shabby. This movie really came around. The producers wanted a gore film that could rival Night of the Living Dead.
You definitely get the vibes of Night, because especially with that one scene, the sheriff's telling the woman to go down into the cellar, or she's saying, "Should I go in the cellar?" He said, "Yeah, it's the best bet," or some shit.
Yeah,
so I was getting vibes from Night for sure.
It is definitely not on par with Night of the Living Dead, but it's fun. Borrowing from that, not the worst thing you could do. Sadly, pretty much everybody, Lynn Lowry, of course, is still around. Most everybody from this is dead. But Bhaskar, sadly, not too long after this, in the 70s, his dance career ended after he became paralyzed during a fall in rehearsal, and he was in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He does record a commentary track on this Blu-ray, and I want to say he died almost immediately after that. So we were fortunate enough to hear from him, because it was a really good performance. At times I felt like, this feels like just a bunch of Satanist weirdos that are strung out on LSD. It felt kind of authentic at times. And I should say this was producer distributor Jerry Gross. He is known for distributing I Spit on Your Grave, Mondo Cane, Fritz the Cat, Boogeyman, the big blaxploitation standout, Sweetback's Badass Song, which was a massive hit.
Right. I've heard of it. I've never
yeah,
had a chance to see it.
He is a legend, an absolute legend, owner of Cinemation, and also a director in his own right. He did Female Animal, Teenage Mother, Girl.
Female Animal, I do know. That
we covered that Eurocult a while back. Yeah.
That's
okay.
You ever seen that one, Dan?
I have. I'm gonna have to check out your review. I didn't notice that one that you guys covered it. It was actually remade, I believe, with Misty Mundy from Seduction Cinema later on.
Yeah, that one's that's an odd one. That was my pick too, by the way.
You can see why it's kind of got the same vibe as
well. It does got that vibe,
yeah. What's the whole thing with the color red and like if you contract rabies, like the water thing, is that actually real? I know you don't go around eating human flesh, but
I know dogs, if they get rabies, I've seen, not seen, but I've heard that they won't drink water.
Okay, so yeah, there's kind of an
they'll be thirsty, but they won't drink the water. And
if you ever like Google like humans that actually had rabies, it's disturbing. Very, very disturbing what goes on. And I think they capture it fairly well in this. I mean, they froth at the mouth. It looks
some of that shit look like shaving cream, right? Coming out their mouth.
Alka-Seltzer or something, yeah.
I mean, maybe a mixture of the two or something.
But you've got to think it's the LSD as well. So it's the two. It's rabies and LSD both taking over.
Right.
So
and some of them act different than others. Like
like that one guy Rolo, he goes around just hacking people like limbs off, and it's crazy, man.
Yeah, and he's trying to kill everybody.
He's just psychotic.
Yeah, his own damn people he's trying to kill.
Yeah. Oh man, and there, like I said, there's a pretty gnarly decapitation. There's really good villains in this. Really good villains. There you go. There's the decapitation. That's beautiful. I've always really loved this movie, and overall, when you consider when it was made, I think everything was pretty professionally done. I'd say it looks good for the time. Again, there's that not exactly realistic looking blood that they used. If you've watched Herschel Gordon Lewis, you know what I'm talking about.
Looks like
they hadn't mastered that formula.
Red paint,
Yeah, but it works. It really does work. And I hope they never remake this. I really don't, because I think it would end up being more serious and polished, and then you would just lose the magic anyways.
Right.
You can't recapture this, and you can't force that. We recently on Flesh Wound Features did a remake, an original versus remake show on the Wizard of Gore films, and while the Wizard of Gore remake has more polish and some interesting things about it, it's like you can't recapture that feel. You just it's that H.G. Lewis feel, and I think this is the David E. Durston feel. I also recommend checking out his film Stigma. It's a little lesser known.
I've heard so much about Stigma, and I still haven't watched it. I keep hearing about it though, like for several years now, and I still, for whatever reason, haven't gotten around to it. But
it was a Code Red Blu-ray, and I don't think anybody else has put it out again. So I don't know how easy that is to get a hold of. I'd have to check, but
it's worth owning. You think?
It's unique. It's unique. If you like this film, it's worth checking out. It's not as good. I wouldn't, I would try and I know that one's not streaming anywhere, but if you can see it first before you buy, especially if it's out of print. Now, I don't know. Those Code Red Blu-rays are weird now. Some are still really cheap and some have jumped up. So, but Durston, I think, could have done a lot more. Again, this is not necessarily the movie that he intended to make, but it's just Happy happy accidents between the producer interference. I'd be really curious to see some of the stuff that they made him take out. But I'm going to call this one a Grindhouse classic that you must see.
It's a must see, and like epitomizes the drive-in, I would say.
It does.
Yeah. If
you're near a drive-in theater, this is one, request it, because I've had the good fortune of seeing a lot of these movies on the big screen, not, first run, obviously, but I've gotten to see them, and there's nothing like sitting under the night sky.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. I've had the pleasure of seeing the fog with literal fog, under the night skies.
Yeah.
And this, see it, request it. If you're near one, just tell them we want this. So what do you guys...
Tell them the DeadEnd Drive-In sent you.
Tell them the DeadEnd Drive-In sent you, yes. If land weren't so expensive, I would be running a drive-in.
I think I was just going to say, especially there are certain locations, especially where you're at, man, more so probably.
Yeah, because you can run most of the year. So I'm surprised there's not more. Atlanta does have one, I think, on the outskirts, but there should be more. I think it is a totally different experience from even seeing it in a normal theater. So
definitely.
So,
gentlemen, quickly going to say the one actress, Arlene Farber, I think Dan may have mentioned earlier, she was basically Jerry Gross's wife, the producer. And she went on to pretty decent things, really, because she starred in The French Connection, William Friedkin, and the TV film All the Kind Strangers as well. So, yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, Dan. I just got that in.
Oh, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. There, like I said, there were some names in here that did pretty well. A lot of these movies, it's almost impossible to find people. It's like one credit and then they're gone. But there were several that went on to do other things.
I did see on the special features on this, though, it was because this is like this edition has "I Eat Your Skin."
Yeah.
So this was the double played with that, right? Well, I mean, you mentioned that earlier. But, But I did notice on this special feature that they were still showing this in PA somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's usually what they pair it with. We don't always go with like the obvious pairings on DeadEnd Drive-In. So we tried to kind of like, we're not going to do "I Eat Your Skin." Everybody does that. So,
there's like a famous trailer as well with them too. It used to turn up on all those trailer compilations. That's how I originally got to hear about.
I've heard about the film for years, but I finally got it. Finally got the collection. I'm not glad. I mean, I'm glad I got it, man. So
yeah, this one's very much worth it. It might get. I'm sure it'll probably get released again. The Grindhouse releasing disc is pretty old now, but I think we'll get it again. And just to leave it with the quote, and this movie's very quotable, but let it be known, sons and daughters, that Satan was an acid head.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I heard him say that shit. I was like, what the fuck is that?
There's a lot of subgenres I like, but I love goofy satanic panic movies.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Devil's Reign, Brotherhood of Satan. I love that stuff.
What about Deadly Blessing?
Yeah, that qualifies.
Yeah.
So what do you guys rate this one, especially since it was the first visit for this one?
I mean, I'll give it, man. It's a hell of a ride. It's fun. It's fun as hell. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Darren, what say you?
Yeah, the same. I'm pretty much. I love this. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I would go because these are not really my type of films, if I'm honest. But I would give this a strong 6.5 out of 10. And that's quite high for me with this type of film, like Grindhouse type film. So
it really, I'm sorry, Darren.
No, go on. Yeah, I was finished.
I just, I said it kind of a little earlier, but it really reminds me of like really early, something similar to early Sam Raimi, like before Evil Dead.
Yeah.
similar in a way, but
yeah,
over the
good
top,
double.
goofy ass fun. But
yeah, I think a good double feature with that too. Not again, not exactly the same, but
yeah,
good night at the movies. I have to give it an 8. Like I said, it is pretty close to perfect for a drive-in movie. I think there's something in there to please everybody, and that kid, one of the biggest
yeah.
little shits in the history
Oh
of
yeah.
horror films. Although good intentions, I suppose, but like didn't really think that one through too well. Let's
Yeah.
give rabies to the LSD nut job cult and see what happens. But there you go, guys. Let us know in the comments, as always, what you think of this one, especially if it's a first time watch. It's a good party film. Watch it with a bunch of friends, and you'll have a great time. All right.
I'm not sure if this one's on Tubi or what, but yeah,
it's on
That's
YouTube.
interesting.
Oh no, I downloaded it. Sorry, the next one I've seen was on YouTube. Sorry, but
okay.
yeah, I think you can get it online. I think you can stream it online.
Darren, I meant to message you offline, but a fellow UK YouTuber, Mike, the Real Fifth Beatle, just told me that you guys have Tubi now in the UK. So that
I
should
wasn't
be.
aware of it. Yeah, I know Mike. Yeah, I've seen a few of his streams. No, I'll
Yeah.
have to look into that. I didn't know. It must be a recent thing then.
Yeah, I think it's like in the last week or so because
Oh shit.
yeah, he was PMing me saying that like what should I look for on Tubi, and there's a lot there. There's a lot there, so it's entirely possible. The next one I'm
I hope
kind
we
of
get the
doubting.
variety. I hope we get all the variety of films that you get because I've heard it's insane, Tubi.
But I mean, he could be using a VPN though. So
no, not Mike.
okay.
I love Mike, but he's not the most tech inclined guy, so I don't think he's on a VPN.
But
Look, you're watching this.
our
tonight,
Netflix and like not nowhere near as good as what you get because you get so much content. I know, so hopefully
Yeah.
it's up there with that. But I'll definitely look into that now for tomorrow. And then
Yeah.
Check it out because there. I know there's a lot of Jallos on there, and
Oh yeah. Tons of
it's still
Italian cinema.
and there's a lot of originals. A lot of them are bad, but there've actually been a couple decent ones recently. So, a lot of people I know complain because there's some companies like Full Moon that will send their stuff to be edited. For the most part, they don't edit stuff, but there's a few exceptions. So, for those of you out there in the UK, you should be able to access Tubi now. So, because I get it. Some of these things are out of print. They're not easy to get a hold of. But our next movie really went out. This one's heavy. A lot heavier than our last film.
Oh yeah. This one hits you right in the dick.
It does. It does. And it is Fight for Your Life from director Robert A. Anderson. And if you're unfamiliar, it's a 1977 movie, and some have only heard of it as the notorious gut cruncher in the tradition of Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave. Others know it as one of the few movies ever to drive even the most jaded 42nd Street audiences into uncontrollable frenzy. This is the story of 3 escaped convicts led by William Sanderson as the sickest psycho redneck in cinema history, who take a middle-class black family hostage for a relentless nightmare of racist humiliation, sexual violence, and extreme vengeance. No sleazehound who's ever seen it can ever forget Fight for Your Life. This was released under a few different names. Cut, as you can imagine. I Hate Your Guts, Staying Alive, Getting Even, Hostages, Bloody Revenge. What's really wild about this, and you can totally understand why, it had a black-friendly trailer that made the movie look at like one thing, and then for certain regions, a white-friendly trailer that didn't necessarily spell out what the movie was about.
It's kind of odd, though, right?
Yeah.
That's like it seemed like that would create some tension in the audience if you saw that trailer. You know what I mean? Like.
We all hear stories, and this has the distinction of being the only video nasty that's a video nasty strictly because of the language in the movie.
Yeah,
because this isn't overly gory. It breaks a lot of taboos that we'll get into, but it's not like a gory film per se.
but it does have, there's one scene that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Like,
with the UK thing though, right? So they tried to get a theatrical release for this back in 1981, and basically UK said no way.
They still don't, right?
No, still don't. No. It did get like a VHS release a year later, I think it was, and it ended up obviously on the Video Nasties list. But even now, no, it's hard to get hold of that tape. If you're gonna get it, you need to get like the Blue one. Is it Blue Underground? Did it?
Blue Underground DVD, and for anybody waiting for a Blu-ray, apparently the negative was destroyed in Hurricane Sandy. So you certainly won't get a 4K probably. Hopefully, maybe a Blu-ray struck from a print.
There's some 35 millimeter prints. I was because I listened to the commentary with Bill Lustig. He was on the commentary, and sorry, y'all. But he was saying that he loves this movie. 35 millimeter was the way to watch it, and he was very proud of it, that he brought this out. Like, so, and watching the film and listening to him, he's like, man, I show this like twice a year at my home, and he was like, people that get it, but people that are offended maybe are not looking at the big picture of the whole film,
Yeah, right.
What it actually means.
Like Tarantino actually used to put this on in festivals. He used to play it for like the early 2000s. I think the racism in it works both ways as well. I don't think it's just white on black racism. I think, there's scenes where you can clearly tell that the black people are just as racist back, which kind of makes it interesting. But yeah, this it's wild, if you're not really haven't seen anything like this before. Like,
but the guy
open your eyes up a bit,
The lead convict, I guess you'd say, he's got an Hispanic criminal with him and like a Asian criminal with him, and
which is interesting because it's kind of, if you watch a lot of movies, I mean, really probably the late 70s, but particularly through the 80s, that was a trope in a lot of action films, some horror, where it would be a multiracial gang, which, if you know the real world, that tends not to be a thing. Certainly not in America. There's no, multiracial gangs out there. And I don't know if there was any intention beyond that. William Sanderson, who plays Jesse Lee Kane, and that's a name that should be known right up there with Krug from Last House on the Left.
Jesse Lee Kane.
Kane,
he is like, he's a standout, and I think this was his first film where he led the dance, pretty much. Like, Isn't he in another movie we're going to talk about on a different
Savage Weekend?
Savage Weekend, which should drop after you see this episode.
He's a great actor, man, and he's nothing like this guy. I mean, he's really acting his ass off.
He plays a scumbag so well. I've only seen a few of his films, but he does play the part really well as like scumbag.
Which is interesting because he went on to great fame playing Larry, the lovable Larry on Newhart, which was one of the big sitcoms back in the day.
That's right.
And he can play a villain, as we see here, but a lot of times, he's Sheriff Bud on True Blood. Happy-go-lucky guy. He was E.B. Farnham on Deadwood, which is a great show if you haven't seen it.
I've seen a little. I haven't seen too many, but
it's really good. Sebastian in Blade Runner is one of his big credits, but he is an evil piece of shit in this movie.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, he was terrified that this might be an issue when he did kind of blow up for Newhart, because he does not get interviewed on this, and he has been interviewed on other things that are, you know, not exactly his prestige films, but from what I understand, like, he was very concerned that this could come back to haunt him, you know, at least in the years following it, because it's rough.
I mean, this film though, it it's put together really well. I really do think it's shot really well. The score is pretty damn good. I mean, it's not a cheaply. It don't look cheap, but I think it was only made with like 76,000.
It was very low budget. The only time it shows is in some of the action scenes. There's some odd editing choices, but
yeah, they sped shit up a little bit sometimes.
Yeah,
like, especially that scene where he's hitting the dude with the Bible.
He's beating,
and it's like, what the fuck?
Like,
what the hell's going on, man? But
I mean, in terms of like the characters, well, the three main convicts, you can tell they're decent actors. Obviously, you got, you know, the lead guy you mentioned, but I love like the older woman. She comes out with some great one-liners.
She does,
and she's kind of ballsy towards them as well, which is
she
great.
got no back down in her.
Right? Oh man, she comes out. Well, what's the one line she says? Don't move or blow your motherfucking balls off. Like,
Just
comes out with his one-liners. You got the little kid as well. He stands up to him as well, you know. But yeah, you can kind of see that they're not really professional actors. The family, but don't take nothing away from it. I think this is like what Dirk said, really well done. I mean, it's one of the better, and I suppose you could call it. You say that, but the racist slurs just get more and more as the film go on. It's crazy.
No, man. Anything,
and it's on YouTube, believe it or not. It's on YouTube.
The mental torture that they put the family through is rough. There are moments of levity in the film where it's just so over the top, you can't help but laugh at it. But I mean, that grandma, holy shit, like she is unaffected by anything. They're taking turns brutalizing her granddaughter, and like she's just stone-faced. Like she does not give in at all. And I always say, as brutal as it is, the revenge portion when the tables are turned, which isn't much of a spoiler, is pretty awful. You know, they get their payback, and
especially like with the cop too, because he's you know, toward the end, I mean, I'm not gonna go too far into it, but he's listening in, and he can hear what's going on, and he kind of like, you know, turns his eyes away from the situation, right? Like,
it's just like carry on, do what you got to do, basically. Because of what happens to one of the characters as well, which, you know, which
and something pretty taboo in like America cinema, anyway, happens in this film as well. That's all I'll say without spoiling anything. But
it goes a couple of places you don't expect it to, and just when you think things can't get any worse, they do. But like, can you imagine sitting down in a grindhouse in the early, I don't know when this film came out,
1977.
Can you imagine being the only white person sat in a grindhouse watching this? Yeah, you think, am I going to get out of this one alive? You know. But I think 42nd Street Pete, I don't know if you know him, he kind of had that experience with this film, which is quite funny. But
But the scene, the part in the film, I'm not gonna say who or what, but you see a body fall down a waterfall. And that shit looks real, man. That's a dummy, but that looks real. And I was just like, what the fuck? How'd they do that shit?
Not having that polish really does help sometimes. And again, a few of the action bits are a little on the shoddy side. It's not an action movie, so it's not a big deal. But and the director on this one, he actually went on to become a dentist, but he was also an inventor. He created this special cigarette lighter, and his only other film was an X-rated comedy called The Filthiest Show in Town.
He was not on the commentary.
He wasn't. He did do an interview. Only time he talked about this was for Stephen Thrower's Nightmare USA book, which I highly recommend. That's the only time he's talked about it. Yeah. And a lot of times we hear stories about people passing out in theaters and, riots in theaters. And to be honest, and it's funny you mentioned 42nd Street Pete. I don't know him well, but I've known him for years, going back to the Chiller Theater days. Even he will probably tell you a lot of times these riots, they didn't really happen. With this, I can believe it. I could really believe it, because this one, I could see this causing a riot now.
Definitely. Yeah.
It is that fucking brutal. And
but they said that people love this movie. They when they seen it in the theaters, like that's what Lustig and them were saying on the commentary, and I was like, really? Like they were really like digging the whole escape convicts angle, and I mean, we've all seen shit. The shit's out here. We just got to deal with it, right? I mean,
yeah.
But
no, it doesn't hold back, and I don't think anything could ever go this far. I'll mention actually a modern movie that kind of totally no, we can't go that far, and it's a movie called Becky. I'm not a big Kevin James plays a neo-Nazi villain in that.
Yeah,
and they set him up as quite an intimidating dude. But then there's like a certain portion in the film where I'm like, okay, that's not accurate. That character is going to react in a much nastier way in this situation. But I could tell, like, no, we can't have him doing that. This goes there. I mean, this goes there. It is,
and then some.
And then some.
It does.
But William Sanderson doesn't get enough credit for this movie because, again, Jesse Lee Kane for me is an iconic Grindhouse movie villain. One of the best performances I've seen. The way he does it, you can still see Larry from Newhart in a strange kind of way. Just if he went down a
that
very
is so
dark
crazy,
path.
man. I didn't connect that at all. There's a scene though that has. I don't care. The first time you watch this film, I don't care who you are. That part in the convenience store where he's got a gun pointed at a baby, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, that's intense as hell. That's pretty. And then it's like a big joke and shit, right? It's like, what the
fuck? You're wondering where that's going to go.
Exactly who this fucking guy is. Then like, but.
And obviously we can't quote this movie, but let's just say there's a lot of memorable quotes in this.
Definitely.
The scene where he makes the dad dance, like, wow. And it's tense. There are a few moments, like I said, where the humor is there. There are some moments of levity. The grandmother is just a badass.
There's some back and forth shit. But
the lead guy as well, the main member of the family, the head of the family, he's kind of this pussy character all the way through, and then he kind of, like you say, when he turns the tables,
I think he's just. I think it's kind of like what it's showing is like, because this is supposed to be like the Christian family, right?
Yeah.
And then you see this white trash piece of shit dude, right?
Yeah,
and it's like the opposite, like, kind of deal. But I don't know.
I think it was like kind of like, let's get out of this by just turning the other cheek. And well, the realization towards the end is like, sometimes you got to use violence.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta.
Yeah. But when you mentioned the scene with the baby, right? But they do go and do another taboo, like you say, with kids in this film.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to give too much away. But it just goes to places where you just keep thinking it can't get any worse, but it does. It just, every scene gets worse and worse.
It shows. I mean, it's nothing like, it's a murder of a child, and it's
right.
It shows.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal, especially for the time, I would say. Like,
oh yeah, this is one
Absolutely, yeah.
again. I wish I could go in a time machine and see it with an audience in 1977.
yeah.
You go see Star Wars and then go down to the,
No
40,
shit.
42nd Street.
Yeah, you'd have to see it with the right people, though. There's no
That was
way.
a hell of a
just-
double feature, right?
Yeah.
Star Wars and Fight for Your
Yeah.
Life.
Star Wars and Fight for Your Life. A lot of actors in this, obviously, William Sanderson went on to have a hell of a career. A lot didn't do a ton, but Reggie Blythewood, who plays Floyd, the son, the young son, he went on to become a director. He did a film called Biker Boys, which was kind of a cash in on Fast and Furious. I don't remember anything about it, but he is a Hollywood director now. And a few others. The actor that played Chino, Daniel Feraldo, he's a working character actor. So there were some that went on to do different things. And I should also point out this was produced by the notorious New York City distributor William Mishkin, a name that you probably know. He put out 60s sexploitation titles like The Sexperts, Orgy at Lily's Place, Naked Witch, Caught in the Act. And he also put out a good chunk of Andy Milligan's films, none of which are traditionally good, but Andy Milligan was a big feature on 42nd Street and the Grindhouse. In fact, Flesh Pot on 42nd Street, while again not a good movie, is very accurate to the time period. Like I believe, in fact, again, just to reference him again, Pete Chiarella, 42nd Street Pete, has even put that one over as like people that ask what was it like for a guy like him that was there for the heyday. Like that gives you an idea of what 42nd Street was like. Maybe a little more accurate than The Deuce, which I do love that show, but yeah,
I know that they were definitely pushing the envelope. That's Michigan. He was all about that, pushing the lines and blurring the lines and like trying to have no lines kind of shit, like,
yeah,
but definitely push the envelope on this one pretty hardcore.
Oh,
weirdly enough, right, in the UK, back around about the same time this was come out, we had a UK sitcom called Love Thy Neighbour, like Mike would know it, the fifth Beatle, real Beatle. And even then, it was, you could say racist slurs on TV and it was fine. And this was all around about the same time. And I remember one in the early 80s, we had one called, there was a character called Alf Garnett, and he was the biggest racist going. And yeah, it was kind of normal. You know, some of the racist slurs, not as bad as what they are in this film, but it's kind of a normal thing, which is crazy when you think about it now, Is there any other film like this at all? Anything around about the same time? Or
I mean,
Billy Jack, maybe?
What
was that, Dirk?
Billy Jack.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Great movie. I mean, it doesn't quite,
not
where this
level,
does,
but
yeah,
there is some racial shit in it. I mean, there are several films like that. I mean, that's the first one that came to my mind. But that old line where he's like, "I'm gonna take this foot and put it right there, pointing at the dude's nose or whatever." I don't know.
Yeah. No, there's moments. I mean, and that's something that's kind of scary, because I mean, you can go back to a John Wayne film and it's like, wow, he just like slapped the shit out of that girl for for giving him lip. But it was a different time
and context, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. So I think these movies are living historical documents, and I don't think there's anything immoral in Fight for Your Life. It's a story of, it's a revenge story. It's simple.
You see who the characters are, and they're fleshed out very well. And the main baddie is a bigot, and like he gets what's coming. So,
and that's why when I compare it to something like Becky, I'm like, okay, and that's an R-rated film, so it's like I want you to portray that character accurately. And I do think Kevin James was good. He's very intimidating, but I don't believe it because, I mean, there's a scene where a character spits in his face, a black character in that, and he doesn't do anything. And it's like, the reaction would be very different. So I think there's an authenticity to this that, again, I realize it makes some people uncomfortable. In fact, the dad, when he turns the tables on Jesse at the end, uses a lot of homophobic slurs to taunt him. So,
and then they start playing on his emotions with his dad and stuff like that. So it kind of all comes back around on him in a way.
It is. It's a mind fuck of a movie, and I think it's a must see.
Home
especially
Invasion
now
as well.
Home Invasion's hard to screw up because we can all relate to that. That's happening somewhere as we speak.
So this was like, what would a similar film, but not quite on the same thing with the racial stuff. Desperate Hours, right? In a way, be similar to that. I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in this film I've only met William Sanderson, but I didn't have anything. I did it. I don't know if that was, Monster Mania or Chiller. I can't remember which one I met him at. But I remember bringing it up to him, and he didn't really say a lot. He's a very nice guy if you ever get a chance to meet him. But he's like, oh yes. That one's a little rough, wasn't it? It was about the gist of what he said to me about it. But I told him, I was like, man, you were great in that movie. And he did say thank you. And he was, very polite. I think then we just talked about True Blood.
I guess some of the people involved would just want to forget this completely. Like just wipe it off the planet, basically.
I hope not, though, because it is so good. It really is. I mean, as you can tell, I'm going to rate this one very, very high.
Yeah.
I think that if you're unfamiliar with it and you're thinking about whether you want to watch it, remember, sometimes you're supposed to feel uncomfortable. Movies aren't just supposed to be fluff all the time. I mean, we all like our fluff, but like sometimes it's okay to go there. These, this sort of things happen. These people exist in the real world.
Exactly.
So,
and also going to, like that whole mentality of people erasing history, like because of some bad things that happen. We need to know those things happen, kind of shit, right? You know, just like these films were made. Absolutely. Don't erase them. I mean, there was a bigger, greater meaning to this film. If you don't just look at it like, oh, what a piece of shit. No, watch it all the way through. Check it out for what it is. Because you're doing yourself a disservice if you just kind of like narrow-minded, don't examine it all the way,
There's an intensity in this one that's hard to match. And there is that humor. It's not quite like the Keystone Cops in Last House on the Left humor.
No.
Where I love that movie, but I'll admit, like, very interesting choices.
I hate those scenes.
That was to calm the audience down, I guess, kind of shit, right?
Yeah, it's a little lighter with this one, but do you guys have any closing comments on this? Because
what do you think about rewatchability with this one? Because I can't see myself throwing this on too many times, to be honest. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I really like it.
I mean, I could probably watch it, like once a year for me.
Yeah. I'd say pretty high because, again, this is one that I will go out of my way to show people, especially when I hear somebody like, oh man, like particularly in this type of movie where, we get the Liam Neeson stuff. Like he's kind of got the market on revenge right now cornered after Taken. And I'm like, those, some of those movies are perfectly entertaining, but I'm like, no, watch this.
Yeah, you want to see a good revenge?
Yeah. Watch this and you will, it'll take you to a different place. So I highly recommend this to you guys out there if you're following along with our show. And I think both our films tonight are essential. time capsules
Yeah.
but that we'll never have again. They were unique in their time. This is the better made, I suppose, of the two. And the only bad thing I guess I can say is some minor choreography stuff with some fights, but I'm a 10. Yeah.
Oh
Ooh.
shit. Okay.
Caught me
A
off
10.
guard then, yeah.
I didn't expect that one, but yeah.
I'm going there.
This was pretty high for me, man. But you know, it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Just for everything that the film means, you know, and what the whole. I know it was, you know, they really pushed some lines, but they also, you know, it has a really solid meaning at the end of the film. So
yeah. For me, it's probably the same as the last one. It's probably a strong 6.5/7. Whether, like I say, I don't think I'll be rewatching it like all the time, like once a year or anything. But I do think it's an important film. I think everyone needs to see it at least once, no matter whether you be in black, white, or whatever. And it's up there. I can see it being, you know, in quite a lot of top 10 kind of rape revenge, because I suppose it's rape revenge as well.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's revenge on several levels, actually. You know, if you think about it.
Home invasion, rape revenge, it's all different.
Humiliation of the family, the whole family, like it's fun.
Yeah.
You know.
And Robert Judd, the dad in this, really good. Like that scene where he gets knocked out with the Bible beating and kind of realizes what happened. Like there's always that turn in those revenge movies where it's like, oh shit, here we go. Time to get the payback. And I think he's strong in this.
He's acting really good with his eyes. Like when he's looking at his son at the table and all this bad shit's happening. Like you can see it in his eyes. I mean, it's just great acting from him too.
Fantastic acting. Yeah. And so guys out there, let us know what you think in the comments, whether you like the movies or not. We'd like to hear from you. Maybe you have a very passionate, different opinion. We like to we read all these comments, so please do. And stay tuned for our next episode where we have another William Sanderson film. It wasn't really planned that way, but we have that and a lighter film. I'll just say that it's a summer slasher, and it's a little less heavy than Fight for Your Life. So don't miss that. And on that note, we will see you guys back here next time. Good night, guys.
Yeah, and stay away from them damn meat pies, man.
Are you guys good for another one?